So that's good. Now we're going to share the screen. I'm going to see if I can get back to our material the easy way. If I can't, I have to log in again. Sometimes it lets me. Can you see my cursor? Can you see my week
No.
one?
No,
No.
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 Okay, that's fine. I was just hoping for the best. I can still hear you. Now can you see my cursor at week one?
No.
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 Oh, that's not good. Okay. Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I found a shortcut for the future. Just like to see it work twice. Okay. Where we were was on today's date. Okay. The first real anatomy. Okay. There's an introductory lecture. If you want to download these pages for yourself, of course, you do that right up here. When you first put up a document like this, sometimes it might be a PowerPoint, and it may take a long time, not long, but 30 up to 30 seconds for that spinning arrow. Give it time. The first time is the longest. After that, you bring it up again on your computer or your device, you'll be fine. What we're going to talk about is anatomical position. Anatomical position are the terms we use to describe how a person uh, looks to us. Okay, once we signed a name to it, it sticks. For instance, anatomical position, the person is facing us. And strangely enough, they got their hands out, like palms out. Maybe they think they're going to get arrested or something. The feet are supposed to be at a roughly 45-degree angle, relaxed, okay? And the person is standing. Now, once we name different anatomical positions, you can turn this guy upside down on his head, on his back, and those will stick. Those will stay. Okay. I'm reading this to myself. I wrote it. Okay. And that's exactly what I just said. That's anatomical position. Here are the terms that go along with it. The word superior. Superior means one part of the body is higher or more cranial than another. Okay. So the example here, the nose is superior to the chin. The nose is above the chin is true, but not acceptable. The nose is superior to the chin. The eyes, this one I'm doing off of the cuff here, the eyes are superior to the nose. The eyes are superior to the mouth. Inferior is just the opposite. One part of the body is lower than another. The abdomen is inferior to the chest or thorax. The nose is inferior to the eyes. The words inferior and superior are not qualitative. In other words, doesn't mean bad and good. It only means in height, in anatomical position. Obviously, we could take somebody and stand them on their head, and their head is still superior to their abdomen. Okay? So it doesn't matter the orientation of the person finally. We still use anatomical terms. Lateral. This is when the body part is farther away from the body's midline. You can draw a line right down your middle between your eyes, over your nose, and all the way down. And the farther away something is, the more lateral it is. So your ears are obviously lateral to your eyes. Okay. Your uh, shoulders, just to use a common term here, your shoulders are lateral to your sternum or breastbone. If you look at the anatomical position again in the hand, which finger is most, or which digit is most lateral?
The thumb.
The thumb is the most lateral, right? Which is the most medial. That's the next word. It'll be the little finger. And some, like the middle finger, are going to be lateral to the little finger and the ring finger, and medial to the thumb and index finger. The digits are numbered. The thumb is number 1, then 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the smallest one. Medial, when the body part is closer to the middle of the body, arm, leg, or any other part, it's more medial. Well, we just did an example using the finger, okay? On the other hand, go back to the shoulders. What's more medial to the shoulders? The breastbone or the sternum, the proper name. Proximal refers to the end where something originates. Okay. So if you touch your shoulder, that's the proximal end of your arm. Run your hand down your arm to the humerus or upper arm bone, and you're going distally in the most distal part of your arm all the way out to the tips of the fingers. That's the most distal. Think about the elbow. Think about the crease in the elbow. This is more proximal. This is proximal to the fingers because it's going towards the origin. The elbow, on the other hand, is distal to the shoulder. Anterior is towards your front side. If you were foolish enough, and I think I've done it a couple of times, to walk right into a wall, then everything that hits the wall as you walk straight up is anterior. When we look at this guy, this is all the anterior side. We'd have to spin him around, but you can do that from your experience, and we'd be on the posterior side. The terms right and left, they always refer to the specimen's right or left, not yours. So when two people who are both right-handed shake hands, right hand to right hand. Okay. Now, I just found out from somebody who's taking art classes that if you're talking about a painting or something, these are reversed. Those artist people, they really got their minds twisted. they have right on the left, on the right side of the canvas, no matter if it's the right or left side of the person. So just in case there's anybody out there that paints, okay, well, we're using the anatomical right and left. Two models, and you won't find anything different here. That's great. Okay, this is the left side and the right side. Here's the midline of the body. Going away from the midline is laterally. Going towards the midline is medially. Going away from the shoulder down an appendage is distally. Going back the other way towards this origin is proximal. In the leg, distal is towards the foot, proximal is towards the hip. This guy, this is his anterior, his posterior. I wish the arrowheads were pointed the other way, you know, now that I think of it. Proximal going up to the hip, distal going down to the foot, superior going upward, inferior going down. I know you're not going to find this challenging. Don't worry. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Planes. Okay. If you were able to walk through a mirror, but you got stuck halfway through, I'm thinking of Alice in the Looking Glass. Okay. If you were able to walk in a mirror upright and you got stuck halfway through, you'd be sectioned by the mirror in a frontal plane. Here's the person walking through this mirror, stuck halfway in between. The front anterior portion is gotten through, the posterior portion has not. This is a frontal plane. A sagittal plane would be to take the person and slice them right down the midline. The sagittal plane that does go right down the midline is called the mid-sagittal plane. You can also have a sagittal section off to the side. You've all seen the autopsy recreations they do on the murder mysteries. And they take the brain and they slice and they slice and they slice. They could start here at the mid-sagittal and then slice furthermore pieces off. And those would just be additional sagittal planes. And then the transverse plane. I always think of somebody standing in shallow water, and the water coming up here, about waist high in this case, and this is the transverse plane. If you lowered the water level and put it down to here, it's still a transverse plane. Okay, on a face-to-face class or a normal class, like sometimes call it, but we're the new norm. We would do the introduction that we just did. We would do the anatomical position, which we just did. I called it lecture, but we'd actually put it into the lab. It doesn't make any difference. Here it is. Now, here's a guide I put together for you to bones and figure locations in the textbook, okay, for the skull. We're going to be doing the bones next. We're going to take 2 days to do the skull. The skull has so many little holes and crevices in it that it takes longer to get them settled for most people. So we'll take tomorrow. Well, actually, we'll take part of today and tomorrow to do the skull. Then we'll move on to the vertebral column. And at the end of the week, we'll do the upper appendicular skeleton, which is the arms, essentially, and the shoulder girdle. Leaving for Monday next week, the lower appendicular skeleton, the legs, the hips, okay, the feet. And then, although we have some more material, a little bit on x-rays, which I've got for you, okay. Then you got really 2 days further just to study for the lab and the practicum on Thursday. I've had people say over and over again, this is too much material. This is too much to memorize. By the time they get to the end of the course, they look back and say, that was easy. That was easy. They get their memory in full gear. So let me click on this for you. Bones and figure locations. Okay, these are the names of the objects that we're going to be looking at in the skull. The one thing about using Mariab, whether it's volume 1, 2, 7, 8, or 9, they keep the same figure numbers. Lots of times they rearrange which page they're on, so I don't have pages listed here. But if you wanted to see something called the sagittal suture, you can look in your book at figure chapter 7, 5. Figure 7, 5 will show you the sagittal suture. Okay. So here are all the items, and here's where they're located in the book. Now, again, I really appreciate from the chat that I read while I was on a break that some of you are going to share some of the book information either by pictures or whatever temporarily. I don't think anybody really wants to work off of pictures, but I'm not sure that everybody gets the original emails that got sent out. Okay, this one has 2 figures that will work. This one has 2. So the bones that we're going to look at today go from the sutures of the skull, parietal bone, frontal bone, occipital, temporal, zygomatic, and nasal bones. Okay. We'll probably end it at the nasal bones or the lacrimal, but right here. And then tomorrow we'll do the remainder, and then we'll move on. We don't come back. If you need to come back, then all the material is available to you in the modules. So we'll use that a little bit later. Okay, part 1, that's today, 6, 7. The last thing we have to do, the bones and structures, part 1 of the skull. This is going to be without reference to the book today. Okay. First, we're looking at the sutures. This area here, right down the middle of the skull, okay, is the sagittal suture. Tomorrow, you will get notes telling you that a suture is a fibrous, immovable joint or a fibrous synarthrotic joint. I'm saying those words to put them onto the recording. I don't expect that you pick up on them today. You will by tomorrow, but soon enough. This is the sagittal suture. It splits at the back of your skull, and one goes each to the right and left. This is the lambdoid or lambdoidal suture. I said two things. I said lambdoid and lambdoidal. That's unfortunately one thing that's imprecise about anatomy, which should not be imprecise at all. The imprecision is that almost everything in anatomy has two names, sometimes even more. Here's the suture. If this were movable, your skull would be quite flexible. It was when you were a newborn, but not now. And down here behind the ear, and going up and over the ear, is the squamous suture. Does it have two names? Yeah, it does. The squamosal suture. Both would be correct. Now there's one more suture. I want to see it first. Hang in there. It's this one. Here's the squamosal suture. Now we've got one going right in front. So if you like feeling your temperature or just going, oh my God, and slap your forehead, you're hitting the frontal bone, which is in front of the coronal suture. So here's the coronal suture. Here's the squamous suture, the lambdoidal suture. And now, because of the angle we're at, the mid-sagittal or sagittal suture would be right here. 4 sutures go around this large bone right here. 4 sutures go around the bone on the other side. And that bone is this one. This is the parietal bone. If you cross your fingers, put your hands behind you or on top of your head, okay, either relaxing or whatever. You're touching the parietal bones in the palms of your hand. That's the parietal bone. The temporal bone is at your temples, okay, underneath the squamosal suture. And underneath the 2 lambdoidal sutures, only one is pointed to. This is the large occipital bone that goes underneath the skull. It's a little early for this one, but this is the mastoid process. This is that bony projection behind and below your ear that you felt all your life. Insertion for the sternomastoideus muscle that we'll be learning later. Can you feel the bump at the back base of the occipital bone? You have a bump at the back of your head. You know, some people don't. Most of us normal people do. This is the external occipital protuberance. Now, if you go back to that list in the previous link, all of these things are listed, and all of these things will be asked on the practicum a week from Thursday. Plenty of time if you don't put it off. Okay, here, this is our occipital bone again from the posterior side. Here's the sagittal suture. Go ahead. Parietal bone. And here's a lambdoidal suture on each side. External occipital protuberance.
میخوابی؟ بی بخوابی. بریم. بریم پلاس.
Okay. Another angle. This is your cheekbone. Well, that's the common name. You cannot give it on the exam. The zygomatic bone, but you can easily find it. Plastic surgeons love to make money putting implants in for people. There's a small opening here in the maxilla. It's called the infraorbital foramen. A foramen is a hole through a single bone. Where the ear comes out, this is the external auditory meatus. It can also be called the external acoustic meatus. We found our mastoid process a moment ago, and you can't feel, and don't go feeling for it, the styloid process inside that looks more or less like a fang when you see it on a skeleton. I do have a skeleton box right here with me, and I'll be using it, but not today. Okay, here's the styloid process. Many of us have styloid processes that are broken. It doesn't matter, they still function. And then underneath your chin, you feel back. See if you got the highest bone above the throat. This is the hyoid. The hyoid bone is the only bone in the body that doesn't have an articulation or joint with any other bone. It's held in place above and below by muscles, which are used in swallowing and in speech. Total number of bones in the body is considered to be 206. People from Mongolia often have 207, 208, having extra bones above the occipital. Nobody would know that unless they had collected the skeletons.
Professor?
Yes.
How common is it for someone to break or injure their hyoid bone?
It's not common to do it unless you want to increase the chances if you're involved in martial arts. I mean, then full contact. I mean, yeah, that's something Yeah, I guess you signed up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now I'm
Professor, I
taking,
have a question,
yes,
if that's okay. For the lab practicum, are we gonna use like cadavers, pictures of cadavers, or just, especially for the muscles?
yes, we are.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Uh, the, it's really just a few pictures used over and over again. What's this muscle? Move the pointer. What's that one? It really doesn't bother anybody, or hasn't, except for one person that I knew who was a janitor, didn't know what was in the box. I'll talk to you about him probably tomorrow, or soon anyway. Okay, uh, underside. Well, here's the back. This is the occipital bone. Okay, where our spinal cord goes in is through the foramen magnum. Now, foramen again was a hole through a single bone. Magnum just means big, big hole. That's what it means. Okay. There's two bumps, one here and one here. We refer to these things as structures, but the specific structure here is the occipital condyle, because it's still a part of the occipital bone. Look where the occipital goes. It's from here all the way back, all the way on the other side where I can't go, to here. The occipital condyles, when you turn the skull upright and put it on a vertebral column, the occipital condyles set on the first cervical vertebra. The carotid artery moves through this hole here, okay, and goes into the brain. This is the carotid foramen. Here it is on this side. The jugular vein exits through this hole. You don't see it as a hole, I know. You see it goes back, the carotid goes back, and then where's the darkness? This one's a hole. This one, is it a hole? Yeah. The carotid artery goes in over here, and makes a quick turn and runs through the bone, comes out here, spilling like a waterfall. The jugular foramen is quite large. You'll get to see it better. This is the foramen magnum seen from the inside of the skull. Here's the jugular foramen seen from the inside. Straight up above it is the internal, well, now it's been labeled acoustic meatus. Can also be the internal auditory meatus. One thing that's not labeled here is the carotid foramen, which entered in from the other side, but as I said, it quickly turns and goes this way and comes out over here. So we can't really see the carotid from this side. Okay, we'll only see the carotid from the underside. Okay, we were on this one previously. The only thing that we didn't cover was the zygomatic arch right here. The zygomatic arch, or well, if you think of a bridge, is a bridge usually made of just one piece, especially an old-fashioned bridge, an old stone bridge. Now, it's got a capstone probably, stones going in each way. Well, this bridge is made up of two bones. The one in front here, the zygomatic bone, and an extension here coming forward from the temporal bone. I want you to just know it as zygomatic arch. Here's a question that has stumped so many people, or at least caused them to lose a point. Here's the temporal bone, okay? From the mastoid process down here, up here, all the way around to here. There's a flat part. Well, it's actually slightly curved, but it's rather flat. Okay? You can take a piece of bread that's flat and curve it slightly and still call the bread flat. This is the flat part of the temporal bone, which is called the squamous part. That should be, or squamous portion. Down here, the mastoid process, the internal auditory meatus, and everything that was underneath all this is part of the temporal bone, but it's definitely not flat. This is the petrous portion. The word Petra refers to a city in Jordan, and it's made of stone, carved into stone. These look like rocks, or it's rocky, which is what Petrus means. This is the Petrus portion. And this, the biggest part, is the squamous portion. How does this mess up people? An arrow will point and say, name this portion of the bone. The answer is squamous portion, or squamous. The answer is not temporal, because we didn't ask you the name of the bone. If you're asked the name of the bone, you must only give the name of a bone. If you're asked a structure, the question will say, name this structure. Okay. If it doesn't say name the bone, then you don't name the bone. I'll be harping on that a bit later. Here's the supraorbital foramen. This one didn't happen to go all the way through, sort of like a notch. Okay. Supraorbital foramen is located in the frontal bone above the eye. We used to have one instructor, he was something else. If I were to give this test face to face, you wouldn't be answering these questions multiple choice, which is what you're going to be doing, multiple choice. Instead, I would have it name this bone or name this structure and a line after it. And you have to write it out. That's not that hard, actually. What's hard is you get an instructor like this guy, Tom, I'll call him. Well, it was many, many years ago. And he would say, name this structure. And he'd make it multiple choice. And everybody thought they're getting off easy. Charlie's class has got to write it all out. No. He named this structure and possible answers supraorbital foramen. That's the first one. That would have been it. But then the second one is superorbital foramen. And the next one is superior orbital foramen. He was a master of confusion. He could not get the answer right. If our quizzes aren't clear, you tell me. Here's our nasal bone. Your glasses, or sunglasses, fit up on top of those. There are two of them. You can only see one here. This is the nasal bone. The bone next to it, going down to here, is the maxilla. It's not labeled. It's not for today. That's the maxilla. And then you have one small bone in here with this hole in the bottom. This is the lacrimal bone. Lacrimal meaning tears. This hole drains into the nasal cavity so that if you've got an excess of fluid or tears, it can be discharged that way. Here's our zygomatic bone. Comes up this high. And then we have our frontal bone. This one doesn't have a superior foramen either. It only has a notch. Okay, now while I've got it on share screen, I'm going to look. Although I have grades listed here, I don't use it either. I don't think it's listed for you. I think I took it off. And although you may want to look at the other people, and that doesn't hurt. See how much time they're putting in possibly. You can get your assignments and discussions out of the modules, okay? But that's probably the easiest way. Okay, so you're looking at finishing the meet and greet, and then the chapter outlines, which I'm going to help you with right now. Okay. I'm just taking a moment to be sure there's nothing I need to hit you with right now. I think we're fine. Okay. If you have a textbook, okay, let's go to chapter 1. If you don't have a textbook and you may not be able to get photos from somebody, I hope you can, but you should take notes. Chapter 1 is just the human body, an orientation. I can't call off a page number for you because the different versions have different page numbers, but I can use the figures. Okay. Well, actually, maybe they haven't gotten too far on a snake. My chapter starts on page 2. Okay. What I'm going to do is just go through here and tell you how important an area is to outline. Okay. And sometimes something isn't important. Sometimes they have side stories, applications to health, or practice questions which you can choose to use or not. I'll have my own practice questions for you. Okay, so if you don't have a book, then you should, as I said, mark down as best you can what I say don't read, and then everything else you're in business with. An overview. Okay, yes. Yes. And we're looking down. the page, and I'm passing gross anatomy. You don't need to make a note of that because I didn't say don't read it, okay? Microscopic anatomy. No. We are going to do histology as we go along, okay? And we'll do it with every type of tissue that we have. Other branches of anatomy. No. We're only going to do gross anatomy. So you don't need to read that portion. The hierarchy of structural organization. Yes. Okay. I'll be giving you that in the next day or so. But that refers to figure 1-1. Figure 1-1 is a definitely big yes, and also a big giveaway because it's so darn easy. I mean, you had Bio 20 or you had something similar, or you couldn't be enrolled here. So this is not going to present a difficulty. The next page, the next 2 pages, I have 12 basically black and slightly colored images. You do not need to pay attention to any of those. Please do not outline them and what's in the 12. That's a waste of your time. Why? Because those images are of the systems of the body, and we'll cover every single one of those. So we'll do it when the time comes. However, the reading underneath these 12 images needs to be done. It's about 1.5 inches of reading at the bottom of the 2 pages. But we didn't stop that. When you get to scale, length, volume, and weight, no. We'll need some of that information. I know that you know it already, but even if you don't, as we come across the need for it, I'll give it to you. Anatomical terminology, yes. I don't know if the editions 8 and 9 have check your understanding. Edition 7 does, but you do not need to check your understanding. You can, obviously, but it's nothing that you would outline. No. Gross anatomy and introduction, yes. Regional terms, yes. Body planes and sections, we did that today, but yes. Figure 1-3, no. They got carried away with themselves for the 7th page of the book. Okay. So I don't want to go to figure 1-3, but the reading below it, yes. The planes, the sagittal, the frontal, the transverse. And the next page. Table 1-1. Absolutely. The picture is not meaningful, but all of the terms we just went over, those have got to become second nature to you. The next page, figure 1-4. The mine is a woman, yours could be a man, but sectioned in 3 planes. Yes. The images at the bottom of the page, no, no. Go to till you reach the human body plan. No. I'm not teaching embryology. Okay. So the human body plan, no. Body cavities and membranes, however, pick it up again, yes. And under that, you'll find dorsal and ventral body cavities. Definitely put a star by those possibly. and continue with the reading. To serous cavities on the next page. And then when you reach abdominal quadrants, if you're marking your book, or however you decide to do it, draw a line above abdominal quadrants and put the word stop in there. That's it for the chapter. So the portions that I didn't say stop to are what I'd like you to outline. I would prefer it if you sent both outlines together, but if you do send them one at a time, I definitely will accept it. Let's move on to chapter 9.
Professor, I'm sorry, I have a question. Did you say yes to serous cavities?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, chapter 9 is joints. We'll be talking about this chapter tomorrow. It starts off where it should, giving you an introduction into the joints, and then it goes where it's no man's land. It goes into the precise names and structures and everything of all the joints of the body that you won't need until you're at Harvard Medical School. So, if you found joints yet, mine happens to be on page 209, yours is somewhere close. The classification of joints. Definitely. Fibrous joints and everything it says under it. Sutures. Yes. Syndesmoses. Yes. Gomphoses. Yes. So you're going to have a few words to add to your vocabulary tomorrow. Cartilaginous joints. Yes. I haven't eliminated anything. Symphyses. Yes. Synovial joints. Yes. Next page keeps on going with synovial joints, but it has nerves and vessels. Nerves and vessels, that belongs in the circulatory and the nervous system chapter. So no for no nerves and vessels. Picking it up again, we see the little words articular disc. Yes. Bursae and tendon sheaths. Yes. And then table 9.2. Table 9.2, yes. But as to any reading and the pictures, those are to reinforce your understanding of table 9.2. That's what they're intended to do anyway. So you do not need to outline that, but you of course do need to outline the table, so it'll take care of itself. Okay. And where you see angular movements after the table 9.2, put your line and the word stop. So you're going to see that on the outlines, I want you to copy down material that's going to be useful, and I'm trying to show you what that material is.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat, where do we stop again?
Angular movements. I just closed my book. I think that's what it said. After table 9.2.
Okay, thank you.
I have a clarification question as well.
Sure.
Um, where we're taking notes is the part you want us to read. We don't need to read the other portions of the chapter. Is that correct?
You don't need to for your performance in this class. You
Okay.
may
And then,
want to.
right.
Okay.
And I was also going to ask you, when, like, if you were the student who's really on top of the coursework, when would you suggest to do this reading? Like, when is the best timing for the reading as far as should we read it early in the week? I know we have until later in the week to send it to you, but what would be the ideal time to actually read it?
After I give the lecture. Okay, so tomorrow I gave you chapter 1's lecture today. Okay, chapter 9, I'll give you that one tomorrow. You'll understand the different types of joints in the words and everything. It should make it easier, but not much later, because then you're going to pile up, you know. Okay. Okay, and if I have another question right now, that's great. But what I normally do at this point now is that I invite you to exit at any point that you wish. I stay behind until the last person's gone, assuming that the last person, has questions or is looking up something and wants to ask a question or wants to talk about something. Okay. And I will see you tomorrow. Now, remember, all this material is in the modules as well. So for you to review as you need it. I definitely would print out, I didn't do it for myself today, print out the list of bones and figures and where they're located in the book. Okay, that's the guide to bone and figure locations in the textbook. Okay, that'll make things go much better for you tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye, everyone.
So I guess I just had a question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
in regards to clarification, when you say stop, does it mean stop before you read that section or stop once you finish that section for the outline?
No, stop before.
Okay, thank you.
Stop at that point.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Are we only reading chapters 1 and 9 this week?
I have to convert my head from a 16-week class to an 8-week class here.
So since we're submitting the outline for the chapters 1 and 9 for this week, we don't have to read the other ones, or we will go over more?
Oh no, I'm not skipping any. You like number 2 and 3? No, we'll get to them. I'm not doing them in the order the book does them. See, the first section we always do the bones first. So I wanted to get the bones finished with. Then we will do the cell structure review. So I know there will be chapter 2 coming up at the end of the week. Are you guys still seeing my screen?
No.
No. Okay, that's good. We have chapter 3. Okay. I'm going to be able to give you an answer for that in just a second. Yeah, chapter 2 is coming up.
Professor?
Just a second. I'm going to be right with you. No, Chapter 2 is the only other one that's going to be coming up this week. Hyman?
Yeah, that sounds good. So we're still only doing the outline for chapters 1 and 9 though. We're not including that one.
Chapter 2, I'm going to assign later in the week. And you should wait till I go through it, just like I just did, so that you concentrate on the part that I think is important.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Charlie, I read somewhere that you want us to form groups. Is that something we'll do later on?
I don't think you read that from me.
Oh, I thought I read it.
I don't recommend forming groups
Okay.
because the slowest person brings down everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and the person that is the most knowledgeable already, okay, often goes so fast that it intimidates the others. So
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I leave that up to you. If you guys want to form groups, you may. I don't encourage it at all.
Okay. I thought I read that in the syllabus, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, maybe
So.
you did, and read it. If you did, it was probably, yeah. I think it might have been a suggestion that people could do, but now
Oh, okay.
now you're asking me, I don't encourage it at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Professor.
Yep.
So for the practicum, I think there were quizzes, right? That we have.
What about the practicum now?
So do we access them through Canvas?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're not going to use Factorio, not going to use Confer Zoom for testing.
All right, cool.
I have a question. So
Yes.
today, what we did was lecture and lab. Is that what this is considered, basically?
Say it again. I should have understood.
Today's class counts for our lecture and our lab time, basically?
1 hour, first hour counts as your lecture time.
Okay.
That's what it's should. In a regular lab, face to face, there's usually like 1 hour of the instructor telling them what's going to happen in lab.
Right.
And the rest of the time is open, even in a face-to-face one. There's not 3 hours worth of material. It would be overwhelming.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, you're getting credit for both. Okay. And I'll check the roll. Be sure who's here. I think that 2 or 3 people didn't show up today. That's fine. We've got enough people. Okay. Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, Charlie. I know you said that format didn't matter for the outline, but I just want to clarify if we can use the outline in like a note form or a bullet point form.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's what I would do probably.
And just to clarify, for the things that we write down for our outline, they have to be like original, not like straight
By
from
original, I mean I wanted basically in your own words, reconstruct the sentence, turn it around. I don't want it like I got last semester. I got the top student point wise, turn in one that was a cut and paste job from Dana Foundation, you know. So that didn't fly. That didn't fly. I held up her grade until she fixed that. Okay. So all I want is, you know, your own work.
Okay.
Obviously, you didn't invent the joint. You didn't invent the ulnar radius and all that stuff. you have to use those words. Of course you do. But I want it to be unique and not a copy.
All right.
Okay?
Can do. Thank you, Professor.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Professor. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Bye, Charlie. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you.
much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you, Charlie. See you tomorrow.
Okay, Taryn.